Good morning, good evening, and good night to all. This is Reading in Solitude, and I'm your host of Writing in Solitude, the typically bi-weekly show I do in which I discuss writing tips for fan fiction and amateur writers. In tonight's episode, to what standard should we as writers hold ourselves to? When you think of a writer, what do you think of? Do you picture someone sitting in an office tapping away at a typewriter or a keyboard, dressed in a suit and glasses? Do you see some amateur in his or her basement, hunched behind a computer screen? Or maybe you see someone sitting back on the bank of a river, writing things down the old-fashioned way, pen or pencil to paper, letting out their stream of consciousness. What about a journalist? Is a journalist a person in a suit on television speaking to you from a place of authority? Is it the one going out on the field and investigating things with a quill in their hat? Or is it some average person holding a camera phone and recording what they see with their eyes? Each of these images, I'm sure, comes with it some set of perceived notions as to how said persons would carry themselves, how they would speak, their education, their intellect. But the fact of the matter is that no one answer is the correct way of viewing any one of these types of people as a whole. A speaker is someone who speaks, and there is no doubt in our minds that a college professor and a stand-up comedian are held to different standards of conduct, though both are speakers. The other day I was reading a story on Wattpad that was written in some absurd way that for a moment left me confused. It was written such that most words within the story were cat-related puns. The word because was changed to clause. The word perfect was written per-fect. And for a second I judged and said, now what kind of person writes something like this? I mean, come on. How am I supposed to read through this? To be honest, I clicked off because it was far too distracting for me. But it dawned on me that I was applying my view of writing onto theirs, and I was thinking of writing through the perspective of writing to the audience that I hope to cultivate. Like the journalists that I described, or the speakers, each presents his or herself to their intended audience. People who don't want to spend time thinking of how to interpret the world around them will turn to something like Fox News, CNN, or MSNBC to break down the information for them. Someone more interested in learning about a specific topic may read through an investigative journalist's full report, looking at all sides and information gathered. A person looking for insight from those more versed in a topic might listen to what a college professor has to say. And one who wishes to laugh will look to a comic to brighten their day. And the same is true for literature. I am no Dostoevsky. I will not write Crime and Punishment. Nor am I Paul Krugman. I won't write about economics. And of course, I'm not the person who fills my works with cat puns all the way down. But of course, that's not the audience that I'm hoping to cultivate. And each of these authors has their intended audience, as do I have my own. What I write towards is likely a vision unlike many others, and much like many still. But we all, as writers, have an audience to cultivate. So the thing I hope we can all take from this is that it is important for us to find just what audience we seek to appeal to. And once we have made that decision as to what audience we wish to seek, then we can move into the question of, to what standards shall we hold ourselves to? Now I want to come out and say this. Don't take yourself too seriously. Unless you're doing this professionally, remember that a lot of us are doing this for fun. And we will be doing this for fun or as a hobby for a long time. So there's no point in stressing things over too much. Moreover, don't get full of yourself. This can come with taking yourself too seriously. Thinking you're the hottest guy or gal on the block might get people to say, who does this loser think they are? Depending on your audience, you may want to be more or less friendly of a host with your content, writing in such a way that anyone may access your work and have a basic understanding as to whether or not they wish to proceed with it. Such as if I write a Girls in Panzer or Doki Doki Literature Club fanfiction, I'd personally give enough background or characterization for anyone, even those unfamiliar with the source materials, to understand what exactly is going on within the story. Alternatively, if your audience is meant to be experts of some field, or people who are deeply seated in the fandom that you are writing towards, then it might be more appropriate to write with more jargon or in a less beginner-friendly way. Really ask yourself who you are writing for and what sort of audience do you seek to cultivate, and from there mold your writing around the answer you come up with. Find a standard to which to hold yourself to, so that you do not fall from it. Be mindful of it, for it is easy to fall from the paths we choose. We cultivate an audience based on what we produce. I do not go to Georgia Pacific for steel or health tips, but I do go to them for paper, and fine paper they produce. And likewise, we are manufacturers of writing. Therefore, our audience is our customer, and they come for our writing. Remember this when you create content. This does not mean that we cannot change, nor that we cannot diversify our writing portfolios. It is wise to do so much. But I think that it helps give us, as authors, the ability to find our strengths and where we shine most, and mitigates the stress felt when we put things out that are not too successful, and not to the standard that is expected of us. As to what that standard is up to you to decide and to set, but just know that it is something specific to each person. And on that note, I think we shall depart for tonight. This has been Reading in Solitude, your host on Writing in Solitude, signing off. Good night, and God bless.